Casablanca, a city perpetually pulsating with the rhythm of life, throbbed under the North African sun. Its labyrinthine medinas whispered tales of ancient empires, while its modern boulevards hummed with the ambition of a new age. Yet beneath the vibrant tapestry of commerce and culture, a shadow stretched long and cold. It was a city of secrets, where allegiances shifted like desert sands and danger often wore the guise of opportunity. Within this intricate dance of light and dark moved a figure known only as the Jackal. Charismatic, articulate, and ruthlessly efficient, he was an extremist operating with chilling precision, his network meticulously hidden within the city's vast anonymity. The Mossad, Israel's formidable intelligence agency, watched with growing alarm. The Jackal's threats, once dismissed as mere rhetoric, were escalating, hinting at an unknown, far-reaching network poised to strike. Intelligence reports painted a grim picture, a shadowy figure, adept at vanishing into the urban sprawl, leaving behind only whispers of destruction. Initial attempts to infiltrate his inner circle had met with frustrating failures, each dead end amplifying the stakes. The clock was ticking, a relentless countdown to an attack that could plunge an entire region into chaos. Capturing him before he could unleash his terror was not just an objective, it was an imperative. The weight of this impossible mission fell upon Agent Anya Sharma. Her reputation preceded her. Brilliant, unconventional, and driven by an almost palpable intensity. But behind the steely gaze and razor-sharp intellect lay a haunted soul, a past loss, a life irrevocably altered by the senseless brutality of extremist violence fueled her every move. For Anya, this wasn't just a mission, it was a personal vendetta, a silent promise to those who had been silenced. Her first glimpses of the Jackal, gleaned from grainy surveillance footage and intercepted communications, revealed a man of meticulous routine, his life a carefully constructed facade of normalcy. He moved with an almost animalistic paranoia, his eyes constantly scanning, his actions deliberate. He never used the same route twice, never lingered in one place, a phantom in his own city. He was a master of disguise, not in costume, but in blending seamlessly into the everyday fabric of Casablanca. He was everywhere and nowhere, a whisper in the wind. The Mossad's traditional surveillance methods, honed over decades of covert operations, were proving inadequate against such an elusive target. Drones were too conspicuous, ground teams easily compromised, and digital footprints virtually non-existent. They needed something new, something undetectable, something that could weave itself into the very essence of Casablanca without raising an eyebrow. The desperation was palpable in the sterile, dimly lit command center. Ideas were thrown around, each shot down by Anya's incisive logic, or the stark realities of the field. Then, a flicker of an idea ignited in Anya's mind, born from countless hours of observing the Jackal's mundane yet deliberate movements. She had noticed his peculiar habit of relying on local transport, his distrust of personal vehicles. The idea was audacious, seemingly impossible, and yet it held a perverse logic. She stood before the grim faces of her superiors, her voice cutting through the tension. "We need to get inside his world," she declared, her gaze sweeping across the room. "And the only way to do that, without him ever knowing, is with a taxi." A collective gasp, then a stunned silence, filled the room. The audacity of her plan hung in the air, a fragile, dangerous hope. Anya's audacious proposal, initially met with skepticism, slowly gained traction. The sheer impossibility of it was its greatest strength. Who would ever suspect a common Casablanca taxi of being a sophisticated intelligence asset? The next hurdle was finding the right driver, a needle in the bustling haystack of the city's ubiquitous yellow cabs. Her team, a small but dedicated unit handpicked for their ingenuity and discretion, began their meticulous search. They sifted through countless profiles, looking for specific characteristics, a clean record, financial vulnerability, and, crucially, a genuine, unassuming demeanor that would never arouse suspicion. Their search led them to Karim, a man in his late 30s whose worn hands and tired eyes told a story of relentless toil. He was an honest, hard-working taxi driver, known for his polite manner and encyclopedic knowledge of Casablanca's labyrinthine streets. But beneath his quiet exterior lay a desperate struggle. His young daughter, Layla, was battling a rare and debilitating illness, her medical bills mounting faster than Karim could earn. Every extra fare, every long night, was a desperate attempt to keep hope alive for his child. He was the perfect, unwitting pawn for Anya's high-stakes game. The ethical implications of involving a civilian, especially one so vulnerable, weighed heavily on some members of Anya's team. Whispers of potential collateral damage, of lives irrevocably altered, circulated in the hushed corridors of their covert base. But Anya was unyielding. "Desperate times call for desperate measures," she stated, her voice devoid of emotion, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of the internal conflict. She understood the moral tightrope they walked, but her conviction was absolute. Karim was not just a means to an end. He was the key, the only viable path to preventing an unimaginable catastrophe. The potential cost of inaction far outweighed the inherent risks of her plan. The covert operation to transform Karim's humble taxi into a state-of-the-art surveillance vehicle began under the cloak of deepest secrecy. Under the guise of a routine maintenance check, a team of Mossad's most brilliant technicians descended upon the vehicle. Every inch of the car was meticulously stripped, examined, and then reassembled with surgical precision. Miniaturized cameras, no larger than a pinhead, were embedded in the rearview mirror, the dashboard, even the fabric of the seats, offering a panoramic view of the interior and exterior. Microphones, barely visible to the naked eye, were woven into the upholstery, capable of capturing even the faintest whisper. A sophisticated GPS tracker, far more advanced than any commercial device, was integrated into the chassis, reporting the taxi's precise location in real time. The most challenging aspect was managing power consumption and remote data transmission. They installed a high-capacity self-charging battery system, subtly linked to the car's alternator, ensuring continuous operation without drawing undue attention. Data was encrypted and streamed wirelessly through a secure satellite link, bypassing local networks entirely. Karim, blissfully unaware of the technological marvel humming beneath his seat, believed these upgrades were a stroke of luck, a bonus from a mysterious benefactor who had heard about his daughter's plight and wanted to help. He saw it as a blessing, a glimmer of hope in his otherwise bleak financial outlook. The first few days of surveillance were, predictably, uneventful. The taxi moved through Casablanca's bustling streets, picking up and dropping off a myriad of passengers, each conversation recorded, each route logged. Anya and her team meticulously analyzed the mundane data, patiently building a comprehensive pattern of the city's rhythms, waiting for the anomaly, the subtle deviation that would signal the jackal's presence. They tracked thousands of fares, observing the subtle dance of urban life, sifting through the ordinary for the extraordinary. Then, a week into the operation, a subtle shift occurred. The jackal, known for his methodical nature, began to subtly alter his routine. A different pickup point, a slightly varied route through the Medina, a change in his preferred time of day. These were not random acts. Anya's instincts screamed that these were deliberate, calculated adjustments, like a predator shifting its hunting grounds. It was a faint tremor, almost imperceptible, but it was enough. The jackal was moving. The faint tremor quickly intensified into a palpable hum of activity within the Mossad's clandestine operations center. Anya and her team became hyper-focused, painstakingly analyzing every byte of data streaming from Karim's taxi, routes, passenger conversations, the subtle inflections in voices, even the background noises of Casablanca's vibrant streets. Nothing was deemed too insignificant. They discovered the jackal's consistent reliance on taxis, a seemingly innocuous habit that now appeared to be a calculated part of his operational security. He favored specific routes, often taking circuitous paths, and had a peculiar preference for certain times of day, usually during the chaotic rush hours when he could blend seamlessly into the urban tapestry. Through the countless hours of surveillance, the team began to build an unsettlingly detailed psychological profile of the jackal. His interactions with drivers were minimal, his tone always guarded, yet a pattern emerged. He never engaged in small talk, always paid in exact change, and his gaze, even through the grainy footage, often seemed distant, as if constantly scanning for threats. Anya found herself developing an unexpected, almost maternal, emotional connection to Karim and his family. Watching his daily struggles, his quiet dignity, and the sheer exhaustion etched on his face through the surveillance feeds, she felt a profound weight of responsibility. He was an innocent caught in the crosshairs of a dangerous game, his unwitting participation a constant source of ethical debate within her own conscience. The tension in the operations room grew steadily. The team soon realized the Jackal wasn't just using a taxi. He was employing a sophisticated system of decoy taxis. He would often hail one, travel a short distance, then abruptly switch to another, sometimes even walking a few blocks before re-engaging a different vehicle. This intricate dance of evasion made tracking him a nightmarish challenge, forcing the team to develop complex algorithms just to predict his next move. One morning, a collective gasp swept through the room. During a brief stop at a bustling market, the Jackal's hand, in a moment of absent-mindedness, brushed dangerously close to one of the hidden cameras embedded in the dashboard. His eyes narrowed for a split second, a flicker of suspicion crossing his face before he dismissed it, distracted by the chaos of the market. It was a near miss, a chilling reminder of how easily their entire operation could be compromised. The pressure became almost unbearable. Intelligence reports indicated an impending deadline for a potential attack, an ominous cloud hanging over the city. Every passing hour felt like a ticking bomb. Anya, fueled by an almost obsessive determination, immersed herself in the Jackal's seemingly random stops. She noticed his brief pauses near certain seemingly unremarkable buildings, his lingering glances at specific street corners, subtle gestures that eluded the rest of the team. She started cross-referencing these locations with old maps, property records, and even local legends. It was a painstaking process, but slowly a hidden pattern began to emerge, connecting these disparate points into a cryptic network. These weren't random acts. They were checkpoints, dead drops, or perhaps even observation posts. Then, late one night, as Karim's taxi waited for a fare near the old Medina, a new unsettling anomaly appeared in the data stream. A coded message, brief and almost imperceptible, was intercepted from a device hidden within the taxi's glove compartment. It wasn't from Karim's phone, nor was it a known Mossad transmission. It was a burst of encrypted data, a digital whisper carrying a series of coordinates and a time. Anya's heart pounded. This wasn't just a pattern. This was a direct communication, hinting at a meeting location. A concrete step towards the Jackal's ultimate objective. The web was tightening, and they were finally on the verge of a breakthrough. The breakthrough, while exhilarating, brought with it a new wave of complications, especially for Karim. Unbeknownst to the Mossad, the city's economic struggles had intensified, and Karim's financial situation had deteriorated sharply. His daughter's rare illness demanded expensive medication and specialized care, draining his meager savings with relentless efficiency. The pressure to provide for his family, to simply keep hope alive in his daughter's eyes, was a crushing weight. He spent sleepless nights calculating, budgeting, and despairing, the cheerful facade he maintained for his passengers slowly cracking under the strain. Then, a lifeline, or so it seemed, appeared from the shadows. An anonymous, highly lucrative offer reached him through an intermediary. A discreet message slipped under his windshield wiper, promising an unprecedented daily rate for a single, specific client. The client, the note cryptically stated, preferred his particular taxi and his quiet demeanor. Karim's heart hammered with a mix of suspicion and desperate hope. He knew the risks of such clandestine offers in Casablanca's underworld, but the image of his daughter's fading smile, the mounting stack of medical bills, overshadowed all caution. He accepted, unknowingly stepping into the very heart of the danger Anya was trying to avert. He became, with that single desperate decision, a direct, unwitting conduit for the Jackal, transporting him not just through the city's streets, but into the deepest layers of the Mossad's surveillance. Anya watched the new development unfold on her screens with a sickening lurch in her stomach. The Jackal, their elusive target, was now exclusively using Karim's taxi, her carefully constructed distance from the driver shattered. The innocent man, whose life she had inadvertently entangled with their mission, was now in grave, immediate peril. A cold dread seeped into her bones. The ethical lines, already blurred, now felt obliterated. Her team debated furiously. Some argued for immediate extraction, to pull Karim out of the operation before he became a casualty. But Anya, her voice firm despite the tremor in her heart, argued against it. "He's not just a driver anymore," she stated, her gaze fixed on the live feed of Karim's taxi. "He's our best asset. He's inside, closer to the Jackal than we could ever hope to be. Pulling him out now means losing our only direct access." The Jackal, surprisingly, began to show a growing, albeit subtle, trust in Karim. During their drives, he would occasionally share seemingly innocuous details, a fleeting comment about the city's changing landscape, a philosophical observation about human nature, or a complaint about the inefficiency of local services. He never spoke directly about his plans, but Anya, with her finely tuned instincts, began to decipher his subtle signals. These weren't idle chats, they were tests. The Jackal was probing Karim's reactions, assessing his loyalty, his discretion, his potential as a pawn in his elaborate game. He watched Karim's eyes in the rearview mirror, listened to his measured responses, observing the taxi driver's quiet resilience. Karim, oblivious to the deeper game, simply responded with the respectful, non-committal professionalism of a seasoned driver, his mind preoccupied with his daughter's next dose of medicine. One evening, as the city lights began to twinkle across the darkening skyline, casting long, distorted shadows, the Jackal broke his usual pattern of vague instructions. His voice, usually calm and detached, held a new, sharper edge. "Take me," he commanded, his eyes meeting Karim's in the mirror, "to the old industrial district, the abandoned warehouse complex near the port." A chill snaked down Karim's spine. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Anya, watching from her command center, felt a wave of icy foreboding wash over her. This wasn't just another drop-off. This was a destination, a rendezvous. The remote, derelict warehouse, a place where secrets festered, could only mean one thing. The Jackal was about to reveal his hand. The taxi's headlights cut through the gloom of the industrial district, illuminating the crumbling facades of abandoned factories and forgotten dreams. Karim's hands tightened on the steering wheel, a cold knot of dread forming in his stomach. The Jackal sat silently in the back, a shadow among shadows, his presence a heavy weight in the small vehicle. As they pulled up to a dilapidated warehouse, its corrugated iron roof rusted and pockmarked, Karim felt an almost unbearable urge to flee, to drive away into the anonymity of the Casablanca night. But the image of his daughter, frail and pale, flickered behind his eyes, anchoring him to his terrifying reality. He had to provide for her, even if it meant navigating this treacherous darkness. Inside, the warehouse was a stark tableau of grim purpose. A solitary bare bulb cast a harsh, unforgiving light on a small group of men huddled around a makeshift table. Maps were spread across its surface, marked with ominous red circles and lines. Karim, instructed to wait by the door, tried to make himself invisible, his breath catching in his throat as he overheard snippets of conversation. Words like detonation, timing, and public square pierced through the hum of hushed voices, painting a horrifying picture in his mind. He recognized a few faces from previous seemingly innocuous encounters, men who had occasionally ridden in his taxi, always exchanging pleasantries, never betraying the sinister roles they played. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow. These were not just men discussing business, they were architects of terror, meticulously planning a devastating attack. Anya, thousands of miles away, watched the live feed with a chilling clarity. The grainy images from the hidden camera in Karim's taxi, now strategically placed to capture the meeting, confirmed her worst fears. The Jackal was outlining his grand plan, his voice calm, almost academic, as he detailed the logistics of an impending catastrophe. Her team worked in a frenzy, cross-referencing faces, analyzing the chilling dialogue, and piecing together the fragments of the devastating attack. The target, the method, the timeline. It was all unfolding before their eyes, relayed through the unwitting courage of Karim. As the meeting progressed, the jackal turned, his gaze sweeping across the room, and for a terrifying instant, his eyes locked with Karim's. It was a fleeting moment, but to Karim, it felt like an eternity. A chilling sense of recognition, a silent acknowledgement of the driver's presence, passed between them. Karim felt a cold sweat prickle his skin, fearing his terror was transparent, that the jackal could see the horrified realization dawning in his eyes. He quickly averted his gaze, feigning indifference, his heart hammering against his ribs. He wanted to scream to warn someone, but his voice was trapped in his throat, choked by fear and the desperate need to protect his child. His daughter's face, vibrant and full of life in his memory, urged him to remain still, to endure. Then a face emerged from the shadows at the edge of the group, a face that made Anya gasp aloud, her composure shattering. It was a man she knew, a ghost from her past, an operative she had believed long dead, responsible for the very loss that fueled her present vendetta. His presence here, at the jackal's side, confirmed her darkest suspicions and ignited a long-dormant rage. Her professional judgment, usually so precise, began to blur, overshadowed by a fierce, personal desire for retribution. The mission was no longer just about preventing an attack. It was about confronting a personal demon. The meeting concluded with a tense finality. The jackal, his face impassive, approached Karim. He held out a small, unassuming package, wrapped in plain brown paper. "A final delivery," he instructed, his voice low and steady. "For tomorrow morning. Be prompt." Karim's hand trembled as he took the package, its weight feeling impossibly heavy, its contents unknown, but undoubtedly sinister. He nodded, unable to speak, his mind reeling. The warehouse, the meeting, the package. It was all a chilling crescendo, pushing him to the brink of an unthinkable moral precipice. The package felt like a lead weight in Karim's hand, a tangible representation of the horrifying reality he now faced. Inside, Anya's team confirmed, were critical components, detonators, wiring, and a coded manifest for the final assembly, all confirming the target and the chillingly precise timeline of the jackal's planned attack. The clock was ticking, each second a hammer blow against the fragile shield of Casablanca's peace. Anya and her team, despite their advanced technology and relentless efforts, found themselves scrambling, facing an adversary whose plan was intricate, layered with decoys and misdirection. The city, vibrant and unsuspecting, was poised on the edge of a precipice, and the jackal's network had vanished into its labyrinthine streets, making direct tracking almost impossible. Karim's internal struggle raged, a tempest within his soul. He was a simple man, a father, a husband whose greatest ambition had been to provide for his family. Now, he held the fate of countless strangers in his trembling hands, caught between the terrifying loyalty demanded by the jackal and the burgeoning horror of his conscience. The image of his daughter, frail yet resilient, flickered before his eyes, a beacon of hope and a source of paralyzing fear. If he spoke out, if he betrayed the jackal, what would become of her? What retribution would befall his family? Yet the thought of remaining silent, of allowing such an atrocity to unfold, gnawed at his very core, threatening to consume him. Anya, witnessing his silent agony through the surveillance, understood the impossible dilemma he faced. She knew she had to act, to push him, but with utmost care. It was a decision that weighed heavily on her, crossing a line she had always meticulously maintained: direct contact with an unwitting civilian asset. Through a meticulously secure, encrypted channel, she initiated contact, her voice calm but firm, revealing the truth about the hidden cameras, the Mossad's presence, and the jackal's true nature. Karim's world, already shattered, splintered further. The benefactor, the mysterious source of his taxi's upgrades, the promise of a better life for his daughter. It was all a meticulously crafted lie. A wave of bitter anger washed over him, hot and stinging. He felt used, manipulated, a pawn in a game far beyond his comprehension. You used me," he whispered into the tiny hidden receiver, his voice thick with betrayal. "All this time, you watched me." Anya, anticipating his rage, did not flinch. Her voice, though coming from a distant, unseen place, held an undeniable sincerity. She appealed to the core of his being, to the love for his daughter that had driven all his desperate choices. "Karim," she urged, her tone softening, "we understand your anger, but listen to me. Your daughter, your family, they are in danger." The attack. The Jackal plans. It will claim countless innocent lives. If you help us stop him, you can save them all. You can be a hero, not just for your daughter, but for an entire city. She painted a vivid picture of the devastation, of the senseless loss, knowing that a father's protective instinct was his strongest motivator. She reminded him of the innocent families, the children who would suffer if the Jackal succeeded, a mirror image of the very fate he desperately sought to avoid for his own. The silence on Karim's end was deafening, laden with the weight of his decision. He was a man cornered, forced to choose between two terrifying paths. The Jackal's network, meanwhile, had completely disappeared, their communications encrypted and their movements expertly masked, making it nearly impossible for Anya's team to pinpoint their final preparations. They were blind, relying solely on Karim, the man they had unwittingly thrust into the heart of danger. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Karim's voice, though still tinged with resentment, returned, steadying. "I will help you," he declared, the words a profound commitment. "But I have my own terms." The line went dead, leaving Anya with a fragile thread of hope and the immense pressure of their impending, desperate collaboration. The day of the attack dawned under a deceptively serene Casablanca sky. The vibrant, chaotic energy of the souk, usually a source of joy and daily life, now hummed with an ominous undercurrent. Anya felt it in her bones, a cold dread that clung to the humid air. Karim, a man transformed by necessity and a desperate love, sat behind the wheel of his familiar taxi, the Jackal, a silent, coiled viper in the back seat. His hands, though gripping the steering wheel tightly, betrayed no outward sign of the storm raging within him. Every turn, every stop, was a performance, a meticulous dance choreographed by Anya's whispered instructions, relayed through the tiny earpiece he now wore. The tension inside the car was a living entity, thick and suffocating, as the Jackal, oblivious to the betrayal unfolding around him, finalized his preparations. He spoke in low, guttural tones about the new dawn he was about to usher in, his eyes gleaming with a fanatical zeal that sent shivers down Karim's spine. Anya's team, a network of shadows, had meticulously positioned themselves throughout the labyrinthine streets surrounding the souk. Each agent, a silent guardian, blended seamlessly into the bustling crowd, their eyes scanning for any deviation from the plan, any sign of danger to Karim. The intricate web of surveillance, refined over weeks, was now their only hope. They moved with precision, a carefully orchestrated ballet of counter-terrorism, their primary objective to intercept the Jackal without exposing Karim's vital role. The weight of countless lives rested on their shoulders and on the unassuming taxi driver navigating the ancient alleys. Suddenly, a curt command from the Jackal shattered the fragile calm. "Here. Now." His voice brooked no argument. He lunged for a device hidden beneath his cloaked garment, a chilling realization dawning on Karim. This was it, the detonation. Without a moment's hesitation, Karim's years of navigating Casablanca's arteries took over. His foot slammed on the accelerator, the taxi lurching forward with a violent screech of tires. The Jackal, caught off guard, stumbled, his grip on the detonator momentarily lost. A heart-pounding chase ensued, not through open roads, but through the impossibly narrow, twisting pathways of the souk. Vendors screamed, stalls toppled, and the scent of spices mixed with the acrid smell of burning rubber. Karim, a man possessed, weaved through the chaos, his intimate knowledge of every shortcut, every hidden alleyway, now their only salvation. Amidst the pandemonium, Anya spotted him, the operative from her past, the ghost that had haunted her for years, his face a mask of cold fury as he tried to intercept Karim. Their eyes met across the frenetic crowd, a silent acknowledgement of their shared brutal history. A primal roar escaped Anya's throat as she broke cover, charging towards him. Their fight was a blur of trained violence, a visceral, emotionally charged ballet of fists and feet, fueled by years of unresolved grief and a searing desire for justice. Each blow exchanged was a testament to their past, a desperate attempt to rewrite a tragic chapter. Meanwhile, the jackal, regaining his footing, fought furiously, trying to activate his device as the Mossad agents closed in. His moment of triumph, the culmination of his twisted ideology, dissolved into pure, unadulterated chaos. The market, once teeming with life, became a battleground. Explosions of smoke grenades disoriented the crowd, allowing the Mossad to move swiftly, methodically. Just as they cornered the jackal, his eyes blazing with a final desperate defiance, he pulled a hidden pin from his vest, a sinister grin spreading across his face. "If I cannot have my victory," he snarled, "then I will take as many of you as I can." The glint of a secondary device, smaller, more insidious, flashed in his hand, threatening to take countless innocents with him in a final, horrifying act of nihilism. Anya, locked in a brutal struggle with her former adversary, saw the glint. The jackal's final, desperate act was not an empty threat. With a surge of adrenaline, she delivered a decisive blow, sending her opponent sprawling, and then, without a second thought, launched herself towards the jackal. Her training kicked in, a blur of motion honed by years of facing death. She tackled him, twisting his arm with a sickening crack, forcing the secondary device from his grasp just as the Mossad agents finally subdued him. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and fear, but the immediate threat was neutralized. The jackal, his face contorted in a mask of defeat and rage, was finally apprehended. The souk, once a vibrant tapestry of life, was now a scene of managed chaos. Ambulances wailed in the distance, their sirens a mournful counterpoint to the hurried whispers of the agents. Casualties were minimal, a testament to the Mossad's swift intervention and Karim's extraordinary bravery. Yet the cost was palpable. Anya surveyed the aftermath, the broken stalls, the lingering fear in the eyes of the vendors, the quiet efficiency of her team. The human cost of their mission, a relentless pursuit of evil, was always higher than any intelligence report could convey. The lines of morality, once so clear in her mind, had blurred into an endless gray. She had saved lives, yes, but at what price to her own soul? The ghost of her past, the operative she had just fought, was a stark reminder of the sacrifices demanded by this war. Karim, his hands still trembling on the steering wheel, emerged from the battered taxi, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and relief. He had driven into the heart of the storm, knowing full well the risks, and had emerged a hero. His quick thinking, his intimate knowledge of the city's veins and arteries, had not only evaded the jackal's initial detonation attempt, but had also bought precious seconds for the Mossad to move in. He was no longer just a taxi driver. He was a silent guardian of Casablanca, an unwitting participant in a battle for its very soul. The Mossad, true to Anya's earlier promise, ensured Karim's daughter received the life-saving treatment she desperately needed. The medical bills, once an insurmountable mountain, were now a forgotten worry. It was a bittersweet outcome, a testament to the fact that even in the darkest corners of espionage, a flicker of humanity could still ignite. Karim was offered a new life, a chance to escape the shadows of his past, a clean slate in a new land where his bravery would be remembered, but his identity protected. He accepted, not for himself, but for his daughter, for the future they could now build. Anya watched him go, a quiet sense of closure settling over her. The mission had ended, the jackal was behind bars, and countless lives had been saved. Yet, she was forever changed. The haunted look in her eyes had softened, replaced by a quiet resolve. She had confronted her past, fought her demons, and emerged with a deeper understanding of the fragility of peace and the resilience of the human spirit. The personal journey had been arduous, marked by sacrifice and difficult decisions, But she had found a measure of peace. The taxi, now a shell of its former self, stood as a silent monument to the events that had unfolded. It was more than just a vehicle. It was a symbol of ordinary heroism in extraordinary circumstances, a testament to how the most unassuming tools could become instruments of profound change. The lingering question remained: what truly defined a hero? Was it the grand gestures, the flashy acts of courage, or the quiet, unwavering resolve of an ordinary man caught in an impossible situation? And what sacrifices were truly worth making in the name of a greater good? As the dust settled, Casablanca continued to hum with its timeless rhythm, its vibrant souks and ancient alleys whispering tales of secrets and shadows. But now, amidst those whispers, was the echo of a silent hero, a taxi driver who, for a brief, terrifying moment, had held the fate of a city in his hands. The city, forever marked by its shadows, also carried the indelible imprint of Karim, the ordinary man who became extraordinary, and Anya, the haunted agent who found redemption in the heart of the storm.